Folks, welcome into That Betting Show for June 25th, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. Teddy and I back on Google Hangouts for a second day in a row. The show must go on, and we'll make it happen. He's Teddy Durant. Give him a follow on Teddy_Covers on Twitter. And I'm Donnie Seymour at Right Side VP. Let's get right into the show. Philadelphia, Teddy, strikes for 13 runs. Put a real lineup out there, and you get some real results. Let's take a look at some hitting weather and the hot topics. How about the East Coast, Teddy? Getting that little, rise in humidity here. Taking a look in the Bronx and also in the city of Philadelphia. One game, 13-7. The other, 10-8. Hitting, it's alive, Teddy.
Yeah. When it's hot, hazy, and humid on the East Coast, the ball tends to carry. That was certainly the case last night, but we have 34 hits and 21 runs in the Phillies and the Mets. And the Yankees have been hitting all the way. All of a sudden, the Blue Jays, the last 5 games, have finally, and I mean finally, broken out with the bats. 5 straight games where they have 10 or more hits. And Toronto, even after getting slapped around early, came back with 8 runs of their own, combined 18 in that game, in a game that was lined at 10.5. Obviously, over bettors, very happy, regardless of which game in New York they were betting, or New York, the Northeast, I should say, they were betting last night, because obviously Mets-Phillies was played in Philly, not New York.
Hey, a couple home runs again in that Yankees game, Teddy, tying the record for most home runs in a row, 27 games in a row, tying, I believe it was the 2002 Texas Rangers. We'll see if they can extend that tonight. And taking a look right now with Richard on the mound, the lefty for Toronto, one would assume that another home run is going to leave the yard for this evening. And how about this, Ted? Let's take a look at some interesting type of environments here out on the West Coast, down in your neck of the woods. Hot times in the desert with the roof open. In the past, Teddy, watching, where they used to be called the Bank One Ballpark or Chase Field, they're now opening the actual roof of the stadium at night, even though the conditions, 97, 98, 99, 100 at first pitch. During the day, they're keeping it closed, but at night, we're seeing some hitting conditions because you had 2 aces on the mound with Greinke and Kershaw. They both get roughed up, and I'm seeing it a lot. That hot weather allowed in there. That ball's jumping in the dome, Teddy.
Sure, and Chase Field plays very, very differently when the roof is closed versus when it's open. When it's open, not only are the conditions good, but the ball carries better. When it's closed, some of those long fly balls tend to become warning checkouts instead of dingers. So when you have a situation like this year where the D-backs are keeping the roof open, even on days where it's over 100, because the game's in the evening, beware. We saw Greinke and Kershaw get hit hard last night. I wouldn't be surprised to see more of that again today. We'll preview Dodgers and D-backs later on in the show.
Next one, Teddy, transitioning over to Wrigley Field. The Cubs quiet the bats. Cubs jump out to a 7-0 lead after 5 innings. Lester was perfect on the mound, not giving up an earned run over 6 innings in the 8-3 win. Finally, somebody was able to stop those Braves bats, and the wind was even blowing out. Total opened up. Here's the key conditions at 10.5, rose to 12.5. How about this game, Teddy? Lands right on 11.
Yeah, and the 11, probably not a bad result for most bookmakers, because open 10.5 was at 11 pretty early. So they ended up pushing a lot and then cashing a lot of the tickets that were written at 11.5 and 12 and 12.5 with the wind blowing out. Not a lot of offense early in that game, although the Cubs got going later. And it's worth noting, Craig Kimbrell, supposed to pitch in another game at AAA Iowa on Tuesday. He could be activated for the Cubs as their closer later this week.
Interesting stuff here on the Times. And by the way, Teddy, we still think it's football season. Next week, we're going to be into July, setting you up for the end of August. Yes, college football. Let's take a look at another top 20 college football team preview today. It's going to be those Wisconsin Badgers. Yesterday, we took a look at the Auburn Tigers. They were 33-1 to win the NCAA title. If we take a look at Wisconsin today, Teddy, 66-1, and the Badgers team total is 8.5 minus 130, finishing 8-5 last year in 2018, 5-4 in Big Ten play. Head coach Paul Crisp comes into the season, his 5th year, with a 42-14 record. Out the door, Alex Hornibrook transfers out to Florida State. You have some younger kids that they're looking to develop at the quarterback position, but hey, when you can lean on a running game, Teddy, with those big uglies up front, and obviously Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, over 2,000 yards and 7.1 yards per carry. It's never a bad thing. They open up against USF to start the season, but week 3, Teddy, those Michigan Wolverines are looming.
They sure are. And really, when you look at their schedule, there's 4 games that stand out. Michigan State at home, Ohio State, Nebraska on the road. The opener at USF, certainly not easy, especially because it's not a home game for the Badgers, but it is not a particularly brutal schedule. But make no mistake about it. This is Paul Crisp's 5th year. He won 10, 11, and 13 games his first 3 seasons. Last year was a disappointment at 8-5 straight up, 4-9 against the spread. They were 3-9 before they destroyed Miami in the Pinstripe Bowl. A lot of injuries last year for Wisconsin. The quarterback play from Hornibrook, wasn't top notch, but a lot of self-inflicted wounds, turnovers, penalties. Chris quote, "There were games I thought we didn't play good football." Another way of saying it, did you give yourself a chance to win? There were times we made it harder on ourselves, and they did last year. Obviously, everyone loves the running back Taylor, who's a preseason Heisman candidate. I'm not too worried about the quarterback position. Whether it's Jack Cohen or Graham Mertz, Wisconsin's not a team that's going to be chucking the football 50, 60 times a game. The thing that worries me most about the Badgers this year, having a complete makeover on that offensive line. 2 4-year starters graduated and 2 early departures, one to the NFL, one due to injury. So basically, you have your left tackle, Cole Van Lanen, and you have your center, Tyler Biazdes, however you pronounce it, his name. My apologies, I butchered it. But the rest of that offensive line is really dicey. And on the defensive line, and look, the Badgers recruit well, but it's not a proven veteran offensive front. And when you're breaking in a new quarterback and you're supposed to rely on your running game, that can be an issue. Defensively, plenty of talent, but significant graduation losses. I'm not convinced the Badgers are going to turn around and go back to being a 10, 11, 13 win team like they were prior to last year. I think Wisconsin, they look about an 8 or 9 win squad to me.
Yeah, it looks like they're about lined right there. They did shellac my Miami Hurricanes last year, ending in the bowl season. So we'll see what's on deck for those Wisconsin Badgers. We'll also get through another team tomorrow on that betting show, setting you up for college football in 2019. Overnight line movers, Teddy, one of our favorite segments here. Always catch those line movements. Where do you get those at? SBRodds.com, the best place on the internet to fill in and check those out. Mad Max line on the rise. Nationals open up at -195, Teddy. Now sitting around that 230, 240 range, taking on the Marlins. Marlins catching, obviously, a nice little ticket here at +206, total 7. Scherzer versus Richards down in the Dome.
Yeah, Scherzer broke his nose during a pregame bunting drill last week and then came out and threw, 7 shutout innings and won his 4th straight start. He's allowed a grand total of 4 runs, Max Scherzer has, in his last 6 starts. We're talking about a 3-time Cy Young winner. His ERA's dropped a full run over the last month. You can understand why the Nets have taken money in this one, but it's worth noting Marlins started 10-31. They're 20-15 since, and that includes a whole bunch of cashes at big dog prices like this one.
Yeah, another big dog price here we're going to take a look at. Cole and the Astros open up a big favorite, Teddy. Those Astros open up around 250, 260. Now showing on SBR odds as high as -280. The total of 8.5. Some 9 scattered out there, but it's going to be Williams versus Cole tonight on the mound.
Yeah, and, the markets like the fact that Houston won a game. And they really don't like Trevor Williams right now. Williams spent more than a month on the DL. He came back to the rotation and gave up 7 runs and 9 hits over 5 innings and got slapped around. And that was against the Tigers. Now, obviously, he's facing a real lineup with a real ace on the hill in Cole. But, Houston, after that miserable road trip, where they lose 7 in a row, the 4 home runs, the 9-4 win, a day off yesterday, Justin Verlander, quote, "Anything can spark a team as talented as ours. Over the course of 162 games, you're going to go through ebbs and flows. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to slump sometimes as a team, and things are always going to seem to go against you," which is kind of like what it was seeming like this last week. Sometimes the script gets flipped and things start going your way. That's what the betting markets are expecting from the Astros. Now they snapped out of that funk with the big win on Sunday.
How about this betting market here? We're going to take a look in this game, Teddy. Brewers total creeps up on Tuesday. We actually opened up at about a 9.5. Was looking around 10. Now checking SBRodds.com right now, Teddy. 10.5 now showing up. Mariners and Brewers. Brewers a heavy favorite here, -175. Gonzalez versus Davies on the mound.
Yeah, and basically, the betting markets trust neither one of these starting pitchers. Davies is coming off his worst start of the season. He gave up 5 runs and 9 hits in just 2 2/3. And Davies is a pitcher whose ERA is not 1, not 1.5. It's 2 full runs lower than his xFIP. His ERA is around 3. His xFIP's around 5. xFIP, adjusted fielding and independent pitching. The betting markets tend to react to that very, very seriously. And of course, Marco Gonzalez is not a guy who the markets have trusted at all. Though his last 3 starts, he's been good. Markets are saying the advanced metrics aren't buying it. Those Gonzalez is saying he's using all 4 of his pitches effectively. That might be live in this one, given some of the struggles for Zach Davies of late.
Watch what you bet here right on that betting show. We're going to get into the game that we previewed yesterday there again, and we're going to go back for game 2. Phillies aim for 2 in a row versus the New York Mets. Phillies favored right now. Checking out SBRodds.com. Teddy opened up around 150, still sitting around that same range. The total at 10.5 after opening up at 10. Similar weather conditions, hot and muggy still here on the East Coast. Mets 37-42 on the season, 17-28 away. The Phillies 40-38 on the season, 24-17 at home. Lockett, who got lit up his last start out, going up against Arrieta tonight in Philadelphia, Teddy.
I'm actually surprised how low this line is on the Phillies, given Lockett's struggles and given the fact I know the Phillies were 6-16 in their previous 22 ball games. I know they had lost 7 straight going into last night's game, but you heard it right here on that betting show yesterday. We were talking about the quotes coming out of that Phillies locker room saying, hey, all we need is a click and we're going to get going. You know, Gene Segura after the game. We're confident. This lets you know how good this team can be. Every team goes through tough stretches. Of course, he was one of, 4 different Phillies that had at least 3 hits last night. Segura, in fact, had 4 in that ball game. Gabe Kapler, quote, we have the right personnel in the room. We're continuing to refine and work on our processes and our practices. Those have got to get better always. So the work we do today has to improve and to continue to improve. The market's not thrilled with Arrieta. I can understand. He's mediocre at this stage of his career. He is not an ace anymore. That being said, his last time out, 2 hits, 1 run, 6 innings against the Nats. And Lockett's certainly not a guy who the markets are all that excited about. He enters today's game with a 23.14 ERA after allowing 6 runs in 2 1/3 in his first start of the season last week.
I got to tell you, Teddy, the boos were raining down at Citizens Bank last night when the Mets jumped out to a 2-0 lead early, but they fought back. The offense survived. We'll see if they can get back to it tonight. Again, wind blowing slightly out, smaller ballpark, good conditions for hitting. We'll see if that carries over tonight. Talking about another game, Teddy, with the wind blowing out once again today, the Braves and the Cubs, slight favorite here for those Cubbies at -108. But whenever you see that line, Teddy, at 12 outside of Coors Field, you know that wind's blowing out of Wrigley, which it is today. 8:05 start tonight, MLB extra innings from Wrigley Field. The Braves, 46-33 on the season, 22-16 on the road. The Cubs, 43-35 on the season, 28-14 at home. Fried versus Alizé tonight, who's a young pitcher. And also, let's keep in mind, a little bit of fireworks yesterday on a solo home run that had the benches clear. Should be fun tonight in the Windy City.
Yeah, Alzolay is a guy who, a native of Venezuela, signed as a 17-year-old non-drafted free agent back in 2012. Finally made his big league debut against the Mets last week. It was pretty good. His quote at the game, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. All the people were cheering my name. I did my job, did my part, and we got the game. It's amazing. He threw 4+ innings of relief, allowed only 1 run on a solo shot. All that being said, this was one of the Cubs' top pitching prospects. AAA Iowa, the 3.09 ERA, walked only 6 batters while striking out 46 in 32 innings. Yet he's not being priced like an ace, or some of this is the fact that Atlanta's just good. Fried has had a rough June overall, although he did pitch well against the Mets last time out. Still gave up 8 hits in 6 innings in that ball game. Freddie Freeman, quote, those left arms like Fried's don't come around very often. He has great stuff, a great mind. Everybody's going to go through up and downs their first season. He went through the downs, and now he's back. Worth noting, Fried has owned this Cubs lineup, 2-0, with a 0.82 ERA, allowing only 1 run and 11 innings of work in previous games against Chicago.
Yep, we got 11 runs last night, Teddy. We'll see if we can tack on because obviously the total set at 12 tonight. Wind blowing out should be a good one there. How about this, Teddy? Let's go right back out to the desert tonight. More fireworks. And the reason why we're bringing this game up again, it is a night game. And yes, the roof is open once again for the night. Diamondbacks at a +100, a total of 9.5. The Dodgers, who lost last night, 54-26 now in the season, 20-17 away. The D-backs, 40-40 now in the season, Teddy, 16-21 at home. Stripling versus Ray tonight.
Do you remember when Ross Stripling was an all-star last year?
Yep.
I was like, yeah, I kind of remember that. It feels like 100 million years ago. Obviously, we're talking about a guy who, started the year in the rotation, has been back and forth out of the bullpen. Then Rich Hill went on the injured list last week. So, Dave Roberts, quote, we see him going forward in that role as a starter. Obviously, hasn't started since April. He was solid in April, 1-1, 2.65 ERA. He threw 5 1/3 scoreless against this Arizona team. It's been obviously 14 straight appearances out of the bullpen. No more than 2 innings in any of those outings. Dave Roberts saying he's hoping to get 4 innings out of Stripling tonight, which means It's a bullpen game. And then we have Julio Reyes. He's been pretty good, filling in, eating up innings in the middle. But none of those guys are Robbie Ray, hence the support for Arizona in the betting markets. Ray, solid track record against the Dodgers, solid track record at home, solid, he's a solid starter, plain and simple. And, of course, Arizona got the win last night. We're seeing signs the market's expecting more of that. Dodgers don't have a whole lot of losing streaks, but in a bullpen game for L.A., well, this might be that chance.
Yep, a lot of people sometimes ask there, Teddy, well, how do you know if the roof's open or not? I mean, it's pretty easy to see. A lot of times you just go to Google or the team's website, because as Teddy was bringing up earlier, 100 degrees and an air-conditioned, nice and calm 70 degrees is a big difference there, especially the way that ballpark does play. Off the mic segment today. Formal conversations are beginning, Teddy, in Golden State with their free agent class. Wait a second. They already have these guys in-house. What's going on here? Do they need to convince Kevin Durant to stay? If we take a look here, Golden State Warriors general manager Bob Myers demurred when asked if he was optimistic heading into a formal conversations with both Durant and Thompson this week. And Teddy, he said, we'll see. Maybe a little upset here. Maybe some guys looking to move on.
So this is one, you and I have a ton of opinions about everything. It's our job. I don't know what to do if I'm Golden State. I really don't. All right. Do I want to spend that money on Durant and Thompson? No, I don't want to spend that money on Durant and Thompson. Not when both guys are going to miss next year and our championship window is right now. Do I want to let them go for nothing? No, I don't want to let them go for nothing. So I don't know what to do if you're Golden State. It's not like without those guys, they'll be competing for a title next year. And it's not like with those guys, they'll be competing for a title next year either. But they'll be up against it salary cap wise. So sure, you want to introduce them to the rookies. Introduce them to the rookies. You want to do a little schmoozing? Do a little schmoozing. I don't know what the right move is for the Warriors. I really don't.
Yep, having an opinion, Steady. That's one thing I have. That's one thing you have. And apparently the dog in the background also chiming in, thinking Kevin Durant might be on the move. We want to thank you for staying with us today, even through the technical difficulties in Google Hangouts. Teddy and I bring it each and every day right here on That Betting Show. Thanks for tuning in for June 25th, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Safranski. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. And I'm Donnie Seymour at Rightside VP. We'll be back tomorrow to go over another Major League Baseball card, and we'll have a lot of fun doing it. Stay tuned and cash in those tickets.